advantages. And in this book, Diabetes and Keeping Fit, by Dr. Sherry Kohlberg, she has type 1 diabetes. She's had it for about 40, 45 years. She's got her PhD in exercise, and she concentrates on diabetes management. Well, she's got it. So she helps people with that. And in the book, one of the things that she says is that the muscle contractions themselves trigger an alternate pathway that gets glucose from the blood into active muscle without using insulin at all. Your muscles can continue to bring in more glucose without insulin initially for a period of time after exercise, depending on what it is and how intense it is. So here I found these little animations of this. It's called the GLUT4 transporter. And there's different of these transporters in different locations in the body, and they've got different numbers. But this is in the muscle itself. And it kind of works like this: whenever you contract your muscles, when you're using them. And are you using them right now? No, you're just sitting there. But when we do exercise, it can make the difference. It activates these GLUT4 transporters, and they come to the surface, to the membrane of the cell, and they make an avenue, a pathway for the glucose that's in your blood. Now you expend it. It's glycogen that's stored up in your muscle. You expend it when you exercise, and it has to replenish it, and it can take more in. The more, you lose your muscle, well, that's not good. Gaining more muscle is good. And so it comes up, it makes a pathway for the glucose that comes into your muscle. That brings your blood sugars down. Now, you don't even have to have insulin for this, see? It's separate and apart. Insulin itself has these little receptors, and they bring another pathway for glucose to come in. Well, you can use both, and we do use both. People who have diabetes, they still have their insulin, that is type 2 diabetes. And they can use that pathway, but you make it more effective by exercise, by these contractions. And here's just a little graph of it, of the transport place for this. And then the other for the insulin receptor there that opens up another pathway for the glucose. So that's one of the advantages that we see in exercise. And it can really make a difference. But to do this, we have to be motivated to do this. And there's really two different paths that are seen in this depiction here. You can see this a little bit closer view of it is the frail trail. And do you see what happens in the frail trail? It might be that the person, he gets up, drives his car to work, gets out of his car, walks into the building to a desk, sits in front of a computer, then does the same thing on going home, and then when he gets home, he gets in his easy chair, and it looks like he's got a remote there, doesn't it? And he's using that remote TV control, and he's just sitting there. Well, that's a path to eventually end up bedfast. Now, I don't really like that path, do you? Here's a different one that seems to show a little more energy and excitement and enthusiasm in life. And all those people seem to be doing that. Well, when my wife and I, last year, we celebrated our 45th wedding anniversary, and we decided to go down to Sulphur and to enjoy our 45th wedding anniversary. And we took a walk. It starts right there in the southern part of the town, and it takes you 3 miles to what's called Little Niagara. And it's along this path where there's some beautiful scenery. I mean, beautiful scenery. There's a stream that's going there. We're walking. We can see that. We even got a little bit closer to it. And we really enjoyed that. Now, the thing is, when I said, hey, we celebrated our 45th wedding anniversary by walking 6 miles one day, some people were looking at us, what? Is that any way to celebrate? Well, it was for us. Both of us were able to do it. That is important. To both be able to do that, not down that frail path. Years ago, when when I was a kid, I would go out to my grandparents' farm in the western grandparents' farm in western Oklahoma. They raised cotton back then. And I would be able to go out there in the summertime and earn a little bit of money by hoeing cotton. You would go down the cotton rows, and you'd have a hoe, and you would get the weeds that were in there. Not the cotton, the weeds. And it was hot. It was hot in doing that. And that's labor. The laborer's appetite works for them. Their hunger drives them on. Now, when Solomon wrote that, that's the kind of labor there was. It wasn't any of that labor that was behind a desk looking at a computer. This is the kind of labor that we're talking about. And so, this idea of being motivated, oh yeah, we can run just to run. We don't even know why. Well, most people have to have motivation to do that, except for Forrest Gump. We need motivation. One of the ways to have motivation is loved ones. Now, it may be people you love right now that love you. It may be people you don't even know now, but you can love and you can help later in your life if we can just stay healthy to be able to do that. And then there's these timeless wisdom principles that are very helpful too, which give us motivation, which I'll go over briefly. So first of all, I want us to look at this idea of loved ones. There was an example that I read just recently. It wasn't too long ago. There was this guy, well, and many others. They would go 26.2 miles. That's a marathon. They would get on a bicycle and ride 112 miles. They would then swim 2.4 miles. That's called an Ironman triathlon. And it isn't because they wear iron suits. The reason it's called Ironman is because it's hard like iron. You have to have training to be able to do that. And whenever you think about that, it kind of sounds like it's for young people. Well, I read about a person who was 85 years old, and he completed all of that in less than 17 hours. Now, most people do it in less than 14. Those who win, less than 13 hours. We're talking about a marathon. We're talking about getting on a bicycle, riding that bicycle for 112 miles, and swimming them for 2.4 miles. It takes willpower. The willpower of some people is incredible, which brings me to an example of 39-year-old Jay Hewitt. This is amazing. This guy, when he was younger, saw the triathlon on TV in 1989. And he thought, these people who do this must be superhuman. They must be superhuman. Well, he ends up getting married, and they have a daughter, and he wants, when she turns 10, he wants to show her that he can do that, and if your dad can do it as an example, you can do it. You can do unbelievable things. And so he couldn't wait till she was 10. Because in 2018, he was diagnosed with brain tumor, cancer. And he had to start his training right then, or he thought it might not happen. So he started training for this event. And he did the event last year during the COVID crisis in 2020. He was able to do it. And he was able to do it after going through 2 brain surgeries, 30 radiation treatments, a year of chemotherapy, and he was able to do all of that. How was he able to do that? Of course, he was able to, they did a virtual type thing. You set up the finish line at your own home because of the COVID pandemic. And so he set it up right in front of his home. He could see his wife, his daughter there, and it kind of motivated him to come around the corner and keep running and then finally get to them. And he says, you know, my daughter and my wife were holding that tape. So I just zeroed in on them thinking, I'm coming home. And he leaned down toward his daughter. And he said, if I can do it, you can do it. Dream big and never give up hope. How did he have such motivation? It was because of the love of his family. And the love that he had for his family gave him the motivation to be able to do that. And so we've got to be motivated. Not just run to run, but loved ones. Another one is timeless wisdom. God loves us. He shows his love to us with his wisdom, which I always refer to as the skill for living. It's put this way in Proverbs chapter 2. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds success or victory in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. And so why does he give wisdom? Because he cares about us. And he wants us to have victory in this life. And here's an example. You've heard of this passage probably. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Well, that word trust, the background of that word has to do with the idea of safety.